And I think what social media has done is it's really harnessed the strengths of some of these communication media, and at the same time address some of the disadvantages. So for example, it has the power of broadcast, the power of TV and radio. But at the same time, it lets customers broadcast back and speak between themselves. So that's quite unique. The second thing is, if you look at, have you heard of word-of-mouth advertising being the best form of advertising? Marketers always, say that. If you look at pre-media, person-to-person referrals and the independent view, that's absolutely, absolutely huge, the best form of advertising, and that's what social media networks have really started leveraging, and that's what customers really, really, like about it. So what we're going to talk about is social media, but I think what it's really done is it's one of the reasons it's one of the most sought-after communication channels at the moment is simply because of how it compares to other types of media. So Dale talked about this omni-channel, but what is the real motivation? So there are probably around 7 or 8 channels that people around the world in different industries use to connect with brands. And the reason they chop and change, so everyone has a customer life cycle, it has different stages, and what people will do is they'll say, okay, well, at one moment I may call a call center, the other time I may use a retail outlet, and so on and so forth. And the reasons they do it is because really of cost, availability, convenience, privacy. So you may get a young guy, so let's take insurance for example. We were talking earlier, you work in the insurance industry, you may get a Generation Z guy who may go onto the onto the web first to do a bit of research. He wants to do that first because it's convenient. He may then phone a call center because he doesn't want to tell everyone his his problems, so he won't go on social media. He'll just go onto the call a call center to maybe get a quote. But then 44% of Generation Z, i.e. the millennials, what they'll then do is they will go onto social media and they'll ask their friends, what do you think of this particular product or service? Because 78% trust their friends and only 14% actually trust the brand. So that's an interesting statistic. So the motivation is really, those factors that I mentioned for the consumer. The motivation for the brand is this. The total cost of ownership, as Dale was mentioning before, significantly reduces if you start deflecting people towards those digital channels. But the other thing is really data. So being able to get such rich analytics, which really these digital channels will give you, because you've got so much more information about the customer. And to drill down into that, if you look at what's really happening out there, the ability to make decisions within companies is changing. So if you look at the old world, so if we rewind sort of 10 years, 15 years, etc., this was the data within a company. You may have surveys, you may have email records, you may have your own company P&Ls, you may have call center data. And what would happen is you'd have a guy, let's call him Bob, he would sit there and, sorry, Bob, and Dale's been giving me elocution lessons in America and changing all my slides, getting rid of the S's, putting in Z's and what have you. So, yeah, it was Z's, sorry. And what this guy used to do is he used to get all this data, and it was quite simple because it was all quite one-dimensional data. So he used to go in there and he used to do his report, and at the end of the month, he used to provide this thing, a report. And the report would be that thick, and then maybe management used to look at it and then make business decisions out of it, right? Because I think we all agree, you need data to make business decisions, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So, what's actually happening is, most of the data on a company used to be within the 4 walls of the organization. What's changed is this, social media. It's been the main driver, because there's so much more information there about your company, but it's out there in social media. So 90% of the world's data was actually created in the last 2 years. Can you believe that? 90%. And this is the real reason. And what's actually happened as well is if you look at the social networks that are really growing now, they're all to do with pictures and video. And the reason is everyone has one of these things in their pocket. They have a camera and they have a video camera. So what actually happens now is data is very, very high in volume. It's high in velocity, so organizations' data on average is growing at 20% a year. It's high in variety, so it's not just text, but it's all different, things. It can be pictures, etc., etc. And it's high in veracity as well. And this particular trend is going to really, really, continue. So, just want to ask a show of hands, how many people use 3 different devices to connect to the internet? I need some help here. Barry, tell me, what percentage is that? Sorry, can we have a show of hands again? Can we keep them up, please? 98%. And sorry, can we just keep the hands up for a second? And how many of you, can you put your hands down if you only go online from 1 or 2 different locations in a day, on average? So what percentage is that? Okay. So if you look at, there's a term there, there's one trend going on, right? So, well, before that, the report is no good anymore, right? So, because it's always changing. You can't have this poor guy, doing all this, work all the time. But if you look at trends, the first trend is you've got what's classified as an always-on consumer. 47% of Americans, and we're all part of this group, well, I'm not, but you guys are. Well, maybe if I... So 47% of all Americans, sorry, 48% of all Americans are always-on consumers, which means they go online from 3 different locations in a day using 3 different devices, right? And they're the ones who are really, really escalating this because, for example, people on Facebook, it's not a question that you log in the morning and then you log in the evening. On an average, Americans go on to Facebook 14 times a day. So let's take a use case. You go into a store, you go into Radio Shack, you're not really happy with that store attendant. You won't shout at him. You won't pull up a call center and have a go at him. What you'll do is you'll just say, I've just been into Radio Shack, it's absolutely awful. And that's a huge brand risk, right? So that's really what's happening at the moment. So that's the first trend that's happening. And this trend is going to continue to increase because 75% of Americans go on to use social media. 60% of those are using their mobile phones to connect. So the mobile is an absolute key, mobile device, whatever that may be. Now, if you look at what's happening, 4G is coming up. Studies have shown in the US market that with 4G, people use double the amount of data. The other trend is people used to use 14 megabytes when interacting with social network, like Facebook, for example. Facebook's got really, really efficient, and they're only going to use 1 megabyte next year. So the amount of data is much, much less. And obviously, smartphone penetration is going to increase from the 50-60%, much, much higher. So there's no doubt that this is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So Bob here is finished. He can't continue doing what he's doing now. It's got too much data. It's changing. It's growing. And there are too many different types. And that report, he can't make a report like that every single day. So something really needs to give. So the second trend is, really how can you, how can this really change? Because you've got Gartner said a few years ago that there's going to be a knowledge and execution gap when it comes to data. So I've got 2 slides left, or 3 maybe. The real solution is to do with the accuracy of, how do you come up with technology that can really, really help that? And it's very, very confusing because there are hundreds of solutions out there. Everyone's got a social media technology and what have you. But really, to sum it up, I think there are 4 different elements that can be used. The first is coming up with something which can go out to those billions and billions of posts and listen accurately to what people are saying about a brand, and to get that information. That's the first thing. The second thing is to then be able to engage with those customers. But you need to do that in real time. So you need some sort of automated process so the right person within, let's say, a call center can get that information and then be able to respond very, very quickly. So is there a way to automate that? Thirdly is workflows and processes. Pretty obvious. You need to make sure that people are responding in the right way because you're amplifying messages to lots and lots of people. And finally is probably the most important one, which is actionable insight. So really being able to present things back in a very, very simple way, so rather than a report, business decisions can be made in real time. So I'm going to give you a quick look at this in a moment. I'll go on to the next slide in a moment. But actionable insight is really what's going to replace the report, right? So we'll come on to that in a second. I want to finish off with the business case. And we work across different geographies, we work across different lines of business, different sectors, and we really find that there are probably 10 different business cases which can really justify the use of solutions. So really going into, I'm not going to go into all of these, I'm just going to go into the main ones, but the ones in white are the ones which I believe are related to customer care. So first of all, for outbound call centres, sales leads, there are loads of buying signals. You know, we talked about the statistic, you know, the 78% trust brands, etc. The other point is 47% of, you know, Facebook, of all Facebook, sorry, 57% of all Americans say that Facebook is their #1 influence of purchases because they trust other people. So there's a huge amount of sales leads out there. Dale gets a new jacket. I say, oh, Dale, that's a nice jacket. That's you know, maybe I want to, you know, buy one. Or where did you get that? You know, if you can get that information, you can engage. The main one on the cost side of the equation is call deflection. You know, 1 in 3 prefer to use social media as a way of communicating with a brand. You know, why wouldn't they? It's very, very simple to go into a Radio Shack store when you have that experience and just send a post and get interaction with a, you know, with a brand. And with social media, one of the issues is to do all the listening and everything like that, and the engagement, it's very, very expensive to do it. So is there a way of automating it? So again, you've got the slides, but they're really about 5 of the 10 business cases I think are related to your work. So before I finish off, really wanted to show you what the new report looks like. What we decided to do is focus on the Affordable Care Act, and we looked at the State of the Union address. I think it was on the 28th of January. And really what we did is we collected, we got our technology to go out and look at all the posts on the internet. You can see the sources there. Well, actually it was Facebook and Twitter, and that's there. And then basically we were able to summarize what everyone was talking about, and then we were able to talk about, you know, what the observations were and what the actionable insight is. Now normally this would be linked to a business case, but obviously we can't do that for, you know, well, for obvious reasons. So just to give you an idea on how this works, is it's highly interactive. So if you, for example, go into reproductive health issues, you can get a breakdown of what's actually happened over those 4 days. You know, you can work out what is the main observation, just that. And then, you know, other things which are of real interest is, you know, what are the top trending topics. And then what you can do is you can even do things by geography. So you can look and say, right, people talking about reproductive health issues, the sentiment is, you know, these are a number of people. The more red it is, the more negative it is, and so on, and so forth. So to finish off, we've talked a lot about technology and how that can help social media. If you look at what has been really, you know, the companies that have been really successful with implementing social media solutions, what they've actually done is being quite human about it. So if you look at BlackRock, for example, they've got a fantastic case where last year, if they look at all the interactions they had with all their different customers, they believe that if they didn't use social media, it would have cost them, you know, $12 million. And that was just a very small team, you know, doing this. But the way they got people to retweet was they made connections with them. So 33% of all their activity was just communicating with them. A bit like in the old days when you went into a shop, and, you know, if you went into a shop, the shopkeeper wouldn't just say to you, hi, how are you? Do you want to buy this? You'd say, hey, how are you doing? How are the kids? So on and so forth. So it's not surprising that what's been really successful, because on social media what people want is to build a bond with the brand and have that interactivity and feel part of a, you know, community. And out of all the strategies out there, The one I really like is Shaq, so we're going to cover basketball as promised. His strategy is, on Twitter, 60% is all about humor, 30% is all about inspiring people, and if he does that, he'll spend 10% of his time selling. And I think, that's a paradox of the presentation where we talk about technology, but humanizing brand is what actually happens. I think the second paradox is, Hillary spent probably, a few seconds tweeting 16 words, and if you look at the media, she probably got, much more exposure in some forms of the media than a David Beckham running around in his underwear in East London. So I think that's the second paradox. Thanks a lot.
So I would recommend, Michael really didn't do, spend the time on this, that it is justifiable for this solution. If you haven't seen our social analytics solution, I would highly recommend that you take some time to look at it. There is so much more behind this, and unfortunately, because we only have an hour here, I'm doing the song and dance with these guys, trying to get everything in. So we're going to move to the next part, so thank you, Michael. We're going to move to the next part, and really what I'm going to talk about here real quickly is Thomas Howe is going to come up, and he's going to talk to us about his company called Textgen and get into really what texting is all about. But what I want to share with you is, in this demo that you're going to see kind of flow through the next couple of presenters, is we are taking a person that currently is the CEO of a small company. Lisa over here is going to act as our CEO. She's with CafeX, one of our other partners in this demo. But she's going to reach out and say, Obamacare is driving me crazy. I'm a small company. I need help, and she's going to tweet it out. Okay? And then what we're going to see is in real time, Michael's system, out of the billions of tweets that are happening, real time pick her up. And then Thomas is going to take it from there and talk about how, from that point, we can then take Textgen interface, do some interaction with the customer, try to help move them to resolution through self-help, self-realization. And then if that doesn't happen, in this case it doesn't, we're going to move them to video. So the idea here is to take a customer who engages us on social media, we try to resolve it with a lower cost channel, text. That doesn't work, so we're going to move them to video. Now, the thing about omnichannel, as I was saying before, if you're actually paying attention to all of these and sharing that information as it goes across, what you can do at a later time after that event is look back and say, why did we even get to text? We need to fix these things on this site, and then go backwards, right? So that's the idea here, and that's where the true cost savings is. It's in the analytics as we move that customer up the more expensive chain to the higher expense channels. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Thomas.
So thanks for being here with me. This is a number that you might want to take down after the end of the presentation. I'll show it to you again. So if you get your cell phones handy or your pen, you might want to get them ready for the end of my presentation. All I can say about this is their mothers must be very proud of them. $19 billion is an awful lot of money. But you know what, it's not a surprise. I hate to keep making you guys raise your hands or not, but just show of hands if you sent a text message today or checked your messages. Yeah, we all did, right? And that's really obvious. Most people do prefer texting if you're under 50, and then that number keeps going up. Back in England, I hear there's people in England. It's actually now officially the preferred mode of communications, which is a little surprising because you know what? How many of you actually texted a company when you had a problem with it, where you wanted to get a solution or you had a question? You never did you? Has anyone ever done that ever?
No.
No, not happening. Which is I think that's a little surprising because we use it for everything else. I guess if your last name is incorporated, we don't text. Otherwise, we do. And if you look at the history of communications, and by profession, I'm a communications engineer. I develop communication solutions, and it's really obvious that we want to talk to our customers. I mean, look at all the time and energy we've spent between contact centers and IVRs and online chats, and look at all the mobile apps. I just know these little dot is actually a mobile app. We spent a lot of time and energy getting our customers to talk to us, yet we've never implemented the mode of communications we prefer. Is that weird? Yeah, I think it's a bit weird. And that's why we developed Textgen. Textgen is an application built for brands that allows your customers to interact with you automatically over SMS or social messaging. Okay? And they do that for simple reasons, either to complain, to complete a transaction, or to get help. And I think it's pretty obvious, if you think about this for a second, it has two great benefits. The first is, it really reduces demand on the contact center, right? So it's better for the enterprise because it's much more cost-effective and efficient, and if you do it right, it creates a wonderful customer experience. And that's a really interesting intersection. So here's the ultimate case. You have gone shopping, you come home, you open up your bag of oranges, and you bought oranges and penicillin, which is not what you wanted. So what we propose is a very simple solution. You put a label that says, if you're unhappy with our product, text us and we'll fix it. Take out your phone, text us, and we'll fix it. We'll automate a conversation, ask you a few simple questions, maybe offer you a coupon, maybe escalate to an agent. But whatever it is, you can rescue that customer relationship in seconds because everyone has their cell phones with them all the time. So how it works is actually really straightforward. This is retro day in technology. So a consumer takes out a cell phone. These oranges are rotten. Sends that to that number, which goes into Textgen, which automates the conversation with the consumer. Asks a few questions, gives some answers, and then the back end collects the data automatically, stores it automatically, and distributes it inside your organization. And that's all Textgen is. But it allows you in real time from any person anywhere to get their needs met. So, what I love about this audience, this isn't always true because Textgen has a few different purposes I'll show you later on. But believe it or not, this is news to a lot of people in the world. And the news is that the differentiator in the future is customer experience. We live in a world where it's easier and easier to produce products and services. Right? I mean it's just think at every level. 3D printers. Wow. I don't know how you're going to manufacture hammers in 20 years. You wouldn't. Why would you do that? In the same way, goods and services are much, much easier to produce, and therefore, we believe that the frontier, how you compete, is on customer experience. But the problem is inside the walls as well, because the CMO knows that. You talk to a CMO, they know that customer experience is where it wins. But because of that slide I showed you a few times ago with contact centers and IVRs and mobile apps, the CFO is like, whoa, fine, I get it, it's important, but we spent a lot of money on this so far. A lot of money on it. So that is a real problem. And as we designed Textgen, we thought deeply about that problem. So, for instance, we know that automation reduces costs. Automation is part of our DNA. But let's take that to a very big idea. A very big idea. For instance, when you use Textgen, there's no developer needed, no IT person to call. Any one of you guys in 15 minutes can put together a very simple 8-question script and deploy it to the world. No IT required. And because we automate the collection and distribution of data, it flows really seamlessly into what you do. And again, as I said, I'm a communications guy. My profession is what I do for a living. When you use text messaging, there are no apps to install, no apps to maintain, no stores to upload to. You can solve a lot of problems and no apps. And maybe most importantly to you, you can keep your infrastructure. I'm not saying rip it out. Isn't it weird? This is not a weird thing to me. So you walk into any business and go, hey, can I see your PBX? And they'll show you your PBX. Then you say, hey, can you show me your text VX? There is no text VX. They don't have one. What we're proposing is, when you use text in your business, it overlays extraordinarily nicely what you have. There is no, oh, I have to throw this away. There's no this to throw away. And that's really important for today's consumers. Like my hipster guy, by the way. Everyone comments on my hipster guy. And you know what? You're the audience. You're the audience who really understands that you want to make the customer experience excellent. So don't make your customers do things to talk to you. What are you doing? Don't do that. You know, people prefer typing, so let them. Right? Hands up for actually, who speaks one language? We all do, right? How about 2? How about 40? Right. When you use text messaging, the language translation, which I'll show you later, is practical. So let them speak their own language. Right? These are things that your customers will really love. And so to close out what we're talking about, I want just to give you some ideas of how we see traction, how people are using it. But you know what? It's a very new technology, and you might have better ideas than we do, and we're really interested in that for sure. So, like, common questions. That's a simple one. Imagine you're in the store, you're a new parent, you got baby food, and you have a question. What's your question? Is it becoming gluten-free? Is it organic? Why is there glass not plastic? Simple questions to be asked right on the spot. Or helplines. Can't find the manual, text this number. Right? It's pretty simple, right? Think about the planet. Think about the planet. We have lines on maps which are political, I understand, but your customer base is everywhere. They speak everything. Lead generation. I love this one. Tony's he's dynamic, right? If you have a business where you're trying to interact with your customers, to really have a conversation, texting is a great method of doing that. Like for instance, you have a box of crayons, and on the crayons you say, help us pick our new color. Have the color scheme there, get some advice from your customers. Crowdsource, as it were. Oh, this is pandering. I'm sorry. This is total pandering. We think that there's one day where there's going to be, on every consumable, a number. And that number says, if you run out of this, here's where you buy more. Right? Oh, I run out of toner. Where do I buy more? The number's on the thing. More pandering for Deltoid Airlines. It's a rare, very small airline on Cape Cod. Can you imagine this customer experience? You're in the gate, the flight's been canceled. The agent comes up to the microphone and says, I'm sorry your flight to Boston's been canceled. You can either wait in line, or we book you, or you can text this number. And with a texting service, you could rebook the entire flight, 220 people in 2 minutes. You really could. And imagine the customer interaction. You know who these people are, you know their cell phone, they gave it to you as you logged in, or get their product located. You know that their flight's been canceled because the number they text means flight cancellation. That's the task they want to complete. And you go, okay, my flight's canceled. Okay, great, Boston, here are the next 3 flights. Pick one. I like that one. Done. So here's why we matters, why Textgen matters. Now, automation is really important, and we're all here to save money for our companies, and that's great. That's really important. But don't forget the second step. If they don't like it, they're not going to use it. If you can get a need met like that, you love it because you rescued the customer, they put their effort into it, and you're done. Done. And you know what? And messaging is our standardized communication form. We like it, and it's everywhere. Go anywhere in the world with your phone, anywhere in the world, even on cruise ships, and you can get your needs met. So one more time, I know I've kind of blown through the presentation quick, and we're about to do this Textgen demo, but you can have your own private Textgen demo if you'd like to. If you text this number, we'll send you a link on your messaging phone and ask if you want us to email it to you as well. So, I think, would you like to?
Okay.
All right, so let's have a live demo for a second.
So basically what's going to happen now, continuing on with the Obamacare message, you remember she sent a tweet the tweets come back now. Barry's interacted with her and sent her a reply. She's going to see what this reply is, and she's going to now interact and text back and forth with the Textgen engine. So what's going to happen is Thomas's organization is going to ask her a series of questions, and based upon the answers to those questions, it will move her through a tree, a decision tree, and get her to the right spot so that she gets the help she needs.
So there's no human interaction?
None.
None.
The scripting, everything is set up prior. And if there is a statement that's put into the question that's unknown, it can kick out a routine to go to a default place for assistance.
So we're talking about the ACA, Affordable Care Act. He's trying to assist me, so they want to know what state is my operation based in, right?
Yeah, so at this point, they said hello, and they asked the question, what state is your operation based in? And what Textgen's going to do is, it's going to listen to your answer, and then it's going to ask you another question. Hold on. It's kind of hard to do on a small screen of the
Yeah. How many full-time employees do I have? Because in the ACA, if you have less than 50 employees, that takes you to a different place where you can get help. So I'm going to text to them cleverly, right?
Okay. By the way, I'm not much of a superstitious guy, but I do know that there are devils and demons in the world, because every time I do a demo, they show it.
Okay,
Oh, no.
go back to your, you were in your messages, go back to your messages. So, yeah. Inbox, bottom left.
Oops.
If you double click on the bottom button.
Go to messages.
No,
Barry.
Dude,
Okay.
so,
No pressure, Lisa.
I know.
That's the problem, right? It's like 50 people are looking at you, you know,
Sorry.
all of a sudden your finger starts going crazy.
Yeah, tell us a joke.
Tell us a joke.
Sorry guys. So 49.
There we go. That's better, dude. Yeah, go side that, that's awesome. So you can see that a lot better. So do you currently offer insurance to your employees, yes or no, maybe, right? So again, it's just taking you through the tree. What's gonna end up happening here is she's gonna get to the end of this, and it's gonna give her some options for additional support, because really, her questions weren't answered. She still doesn't have the help that she needs. For a second, I thought they were coming to pick up Hillary.
So basically they're asking me, which modality do you want to use?
Yeah.
I'm going to say video.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to move, as I said, through that continuum. Now we're going to go to video. We're going to talk about the Cisco relationship and the CafeX relationship that we have, and how video is becoming more prominent in customer support. Obviously Amazon is out there with theirs, but with CafeX and Cisco it's a little bit different because we can use any type of device. It's not just the Kindle. It can be a tablet of any kind, iPad, whatever, and including your cell phone, any type of cell phone, or PC for that matter. So she's switching over to her iPad just because it has a larger screen, and you can see the interaction between her and Barry, and they'll talk
So
about.
what they did was they sent me an email and said, okay, here's a link that you can go to. So I pressed the link. And now we're at the Affordable Care Act website. You can see that there's a video window up there in the corner, okay? And now Barry and I are talking. Okay? Hi Barry, how are you?
How are you?
I'm having some questions about the Affordable Care Act. Can you help me?
I see you're in the Affordable Care Act site right now. Think you need some help?
I think so. I have a small business. Maybe I'll press on that.
So what you'll notice is whatever she's doing on her side, I'm seeing on my side. I'm acting as the agent. I'm in the browser. And I'm actually seeing her video. We're having bi-directional communication, video, voice, and we're having a bi-directional stateless phone co-browsing session between us. So now that I've seen her go into small business, I can actually start taking control of the section. And I said, I believe you have fewer than 50 employees, Lisa, so I'm going to actually take you to a part on the local area site that's about businesses that have 50 employees. And I'm driving her as opposed to her driving me. So now we go to a section in the site where it says this is what happens with businesses, small business, what a small business need to know. So obviously it's a big page. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show Lisa with some annotations, some specifically interesting things. For instance, Lisa, did you know, as I'm annotating, and what you should be watching is probably her side, because now I'm annotating her screen in real time. So Lisa, by the way, you know with 50 or fewer employees, you can get health coverage during the shop marketplace. And by the way, if you want some more information on the shop marketplace, there's another place you can go. So I can continue annotating as much as I need to drive her further. And then I can say, all right, you know what, let's go a little further down. And let's see if Lisa qualifies for a tax credit. So now I'm going to give Lisa a tax credit. It's actually on the site. How am I doing so far, Lisa?
You're doing very well, Barry, but I just want to move your...
Lisa can move my video screen away so she can take it out of the site. So now you'll notice that, by the way, Lisa, I noticed that you may actually qualify for tax credits based on the number of employees and so forth. So Lisa, how have I helped you so far? Pretty good?
Yes, you've done a great job, Barry. I really appreciate it.
Totally. I was hoping so because my job depends on it.
Would you hire this
Love
agent?
you.
Yeah, right.
So Lisa,
Yes or no?
I have one last thing to do for you. I have one last thing to do for you, which is to actually share a document with you.
Okay.
So Lisa, here is an application. And now magically, I'm actually going to send her the document. That's a real PDF I just sent to her iPad. And I see it too. So now if she scrolls through it, I scroll through it, I have a document here. So let's summarize. We've got bidirectional voice and video going on in a browser, no plugins, nothing going on behind my back. Got co-browsing, bidirectional stateless no ball passing. Got annotation. And by the way, we can actually do annotation in both directions. We're actually working on that feature's coming out. With her annotating to me. And finally, we're passing real life documents now. We're actually passing these real PDF documents now. So we've done what we consider a full length customer experience between the two of us. You can close the document, at least I think we're done.
Yes, we're done. So I'm going to end the session just by depressing end here. And our session is ending. We also could have access to the website and that two-way video conversation just by depressing that live preserver at the top there, which is the live assist button. So this could be resident on anyone's website. It works really, really quickly, and you don't have to redo your web pages. It just works with your context.
And now that's browsing your app, browsing your website, live assist, and that was the same experience.
Any questions on that?
Great.
So again, the idea here is really to move the customer, and the whole purpose of this, which isn't in place today just yet, is really to share that information across those channels to create an omni-channel experience so that we understand fully what's coming up the chain and why it's coming up the chain.
I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
On all the annotations that you did, is that captured in the analytics so that you can stream the process that's never happened?
It's not today, but it's something that we could incorporate with it. It should incorporate with it, to be honest. We're still looking to figure out the piece parts for some of this as we move forward. And again, this is really not to share so much the technological capabilities, but it is because we want you to think a little bit ahead, but not so far ahead where you think we're pie in the sky, right? So it's very near term, like Michael's solution, CafeX's solution, Tom's solutions. They're all real solutions. They're all there today. What isn't there today is that omni-channel component, right? And making it so that data analytics and that flow goes from piece to piece to piece. So that's what Xerox is looking at for the future. That's what we believe customers want and expect, quite honestly. So with that being said, I'm going to turn over just to one last person, to Jose Leary from
So again, my name's Jose Lear from Cisco, and along with my friend Michael, I also like different type of football. I'm Brazilian, so by law we have to like soccer. Along with things that we make, like my friend Michael will call routers. Outside of making routers, we also make customer care or contact center applications. We are very honored to be a key strategic partner of Xerox, and I'm humbled every day working with guys like Dale and Michael, and I see very amazing. And one thing I also get to have the pleasure of doing is talking to people like you, talking to the Miss Stones of the world, learning from you, the customers, in terms of it's not about the technology, right? It's not about what blinking light we have and what server it is. It's about the customer, right? At the end of the day, no matter what we put out there, whatever's in the data center, whatever it is, that's not the important thing. It's about the customer and learning that piece. No matter where that experience is. Again, contact center, where's the customer? Retail, branches, at home, on mobile device we talked about. At the end of the day, it is just about the customer. And we are very proud to work with Xerox and everybody else, with Matt and Thomas and everybody else. We're really excited about kind of where this is going. A minute? Yeah, I got 1 minute. So I got a quick minute. So I'll start off. I just want to reveal 3 things really fast. I'm not a real customer agent. I'm just playing one here today. I did not watch the Beckham commercial at all, and I have 1 slide. Just the man keeping slide. So what do? We basically do customer experience, like you've just seen in our demo. And fundamentally, what our solution is, it's a software development kit that you can embed into your mobile app. It's Android, iOS, your web server. And we deploy voice, video, and data channels. So we allow you to do annotation, co-browsing, voice, video, context of what you're doing, all wrapped up in 3 lines of code that lives on your app that you built for your corporation. That's what we call Internet Communications Customer Experience. The Live Assist is an example of that we just showed you. It's Kindle's Mayday, but we privately brand it so that any company can now do what Kindle did on their device. We can do on any device. And lastly, we have something called mobile self-service. We call it visual IVR. This allows us to do IVR in visual space, not IVR in tone space. So instead of hitting 1, 2, 3 pound to get to an IVR person, we read the IVR tree in the back end automatically. You don't have to change what you're doing. We will render it as a visual option menu. So if you want to change the address for your bank account, you don't no longer need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then hit pound because you're exhausted and tired of waiting, figuring out the tree. It'll give you a menu option off of your IVR and your logic that says, here's how you change the address, and you do it yourself on your beautiful screen on your phone. And with that, I will keep it simple and put it back to Dennis.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So again, that kind of concludes things, unless there's any questions. We do, I mean, if you guys want to hang out for a few minutes, ask some questions, we can do that if you'd like. If not, if there's no questions, then if you'd like to come up and talk with us after, that's fine as well. So any questions? Yes?
Firstly, excellent presentation, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Some great demos. I've got a question for this gentleman here.
Thomas, yes.
Thomas, forgive me. Textgen.
Yes.
Based on where you've deployed the solution,
Yeah.
and your background, you may have a browser glitches. There's a lot of light-hearted comment made about autocorrect creating embarrassing conversations.
Absolutely.
Right?
Right.
So in where you've deployed it,
Yeah.
how do you handle that?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So in terms of language, there are actually 3 different areas to worry about. It's only one of them, so I'll give you all 3, so we can all worry about it together. The first worry is when you collect data, is the data clean? So for instance, if I ask you for your email address, is it really an email address or not? Well, one of the things that we do in